Hello everyone. We have with us Pavithra Rajkumar. She's a holistic wellness and embodiment coach. She's an energy healer. She's also the founder of Gut Culture India. In fact, world's first gut curated meals to cater to your gut health. Thank you, Pavithra, for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Palak.
Anyway, let us start. We want to gain as much as we can from you. And let us begin by, introducing everyone with exactly what our gut is and how does our gut function and work in our body. What is its importance to begin with?
Right, right. So, a lot of people think that the gut is primarily our digestive system, right? Which is what I think we also learned in school, right? Like we grew up with that, and but that's a very limited understanding of the gut itself. So this whole I would say the more modern, it's not even a school of thought, but this comes from new research about the microbiome. The primary thing being the Human Microbiome Project, okay, where it was discovered that we are actually more bacteria than human. We actually have way more bacterial DNA cells in us compared to our own human DNA. So so all of this microbiome is actually what the gut is made of. So when we talk about the gut, it's not just the large intestine or the digestive system itself. It actually begins from our mouth, okay, because there's bacteria all over us, in us and everywhere, right? But it primarily starts from our mouth, which means from our salivary process, the whole process starts off, okay? And it goes all the way up to our eradication, which is our anus. So just this has about 10 to the power 13 trillion microbes. And so there's good and there's bad bacteria, and all of this actually is part of the gut. Now, what role does the gut play, right? So the gut is actually called as the headquarters of our immune system. Okay. So more than 70% of our immune system is actually to do with our gut.
Okay. Yeah. That is like new knowledge for I think most of the people, because you're not even aware exactly how the gut works. And I also read somewhere that your serotonin levels, like your mood stabilizing chemical in the body, really also like the levels differ because of your gut health or poor gut health. So that means that even mental health can be related to your gut health. It's that important.
Yeah, absolutely. So apart from the immune system, with regard to neurotransmitters, right? So serotonin is being one of it. 90% of serotonin is actually made in the gut. 90%.
Oh my God.
Just take a moment to digest and it's not like gut affects mental health. It's literally in the gut, right? And vice versa. Because being stressed or depressed, anxiety, all of this correlates to having an imbalanced gut, and having an imbalanced gut can cause all of these things. So it's kind of like it's just intertwined, right? So apart from the immune function, the neurotransmitters, they also play a big role in regulating inflammation in the body. So with today's lifestyle, a lot of people actually suffer from what's called as chronic low-grade inflammation. Now, this is not like, say, when we fall down, right? There's an inflammation that happens. Now, that's an external response from our body. But this chronic low-grade inflammation is happening inwards within the body, which we aren't really aware of outside. And this leads to a whole lot of diseases and illnesses in the long run.
Okay, and what are the symptoms of this inflammation?
So exactly, so it shows up as different disorders, right? Yeah, so for example, metabolic disorders, be it diabetes or high BP, heart disease, PCOS, thyroid, all of these actually have chronic low grade inflammation accompanied with the whole condition itself.
Okay.
So, and this, our gut plays a very important role in actually regulating this inflammation, and also regulating, so alongside inflammation, it's also regulating the immune system, right? So this bacteria is actually sending signals as to what's going on, and when we need to actually start off an attack against the bad guys or not. And it's also a big part of autoimmune conditions. So autoimmune conditions like right from arthritis to lupus to a whole lot of these diseases actually have no answers, right? Like they just say you just need to live with it. Even skin conditions like eczema and things like that are related to the gut. Okay, so there's so much more that this actually plays a role in compared to simply the digestive system or just doing that. And like I also mentioned about balancing hormones, that is also something that is an important role of our gut microbiome.
So also, Pavithra, like, does that mean that everything develops from poor gut health? Like all these issues that we face develop from there, or once we get them from other reasons in the body, other dysfunctions, then the gut health comes into play. Like the cause is there, or it's just a supportive mechanism.
So this is something that research is still going on about, and as of now, what we know is that these are not really mutually exclusive events, right? So it's not like which came first. It's not like the chicken or the egg. So because an imbalanced gut leads to issues, and say having these other kind of issues, for example, something that's causing chronic low-grade inflammation leads to an imbalanced gut. Or for example, let's take PCOS, right? So a lot of people with PCOS actually have it could be they suffer from IBS or gastritis, acidity, some form of issues like that. But what has been found out is that it's closely interlinked with having an imbalanced gut. Now the question is, did the PCOS cause the imbalanced gut, or the imbalanced gut causes? So so that's really not the whole point of it, right? Which is why, I mean, if I were to tell you something really important, right? We are so used to looking at our bodies as silos, right? When we say thyroid, we're only looking at that specific issue.
Exactly.
When we say PCOS, we're looking only at that specific issue. Or when they say diabetes, it's only that insulin sensitivity. But we are literally like a whole being, and everything from our emotions to our mental health to our gut to the condition itself, everything is related. And treating a specific issue or a disease or managing something like a PCOS or a diabetes needs a holistic view. Instead of saying, okay, am I just going to fix one thing and everything's going to get fixed? No. We need to look at a very holistic perspective and sort of take steps around in a very holistic way.
That's a really important, concerning thing that you pointed out, because like most often, especially in India, growing up in India, for fever, you're given a special antibiotic, and then you take it, and then you just remember that antibiotic's name, and you're taking it throughout your life without even trying to know or understand that what other side effects it is causing to your body. And those side effects can be remarkably huge, and you might not even realize. So like body is like a complex network for sure, and every other area, every other function is related to one another. Like they say that mental health issues have grown so much over the years, especially for our generation. I think most of it has to do with the poor lifestyle. It affects our health, our gut, and also the emotions, and then it becomes a vicious cycle which we're not able to break. So antibiotic consumption has been, like today we're all into like organic healing and Ayurveda, and going towards the nature, which was where it all began, and rightly so. But what would you say about antibiotic consumption, and how does it go with your gut, and how does it affect the gut?
Right. So antibiotics, their primary role is to actually stop, arrest any sort of bacterial overgrowth.
Okay.
Right? So when there is a form of infection, primarily they use it for infection, right? So where there is a bacterial overgrowth, which means the bad bacteria is more than the bacteria, which means now the good bacteria means our immune system is unable to. And so now we are bringing in something to arrest the. Right. So the primary role of antibiotics is actually to help when there is a bacterial infection, right? So and to arrest this whole overgrowth that's happening. So what's happening is that the bad bacteria has outnumbered the good bacteria, because this good bacteria is actually our immune system, right? Like they are our soldiers. And because they've not been able to handle that, and now this bad bacteria has outgrown it, now we need to bring in an external intervention to arrest this whole overgrowth. But unfortunately, as much as this, the discovery of antibiotics and how this has really saved humanity,
Yeah.
The bad thing about antibiotics is that it cannot only kill the bad guys and save the good guys. Okay? So antibiotics kill all bacteria. Yeah. So they kill the good guys, the bad guys, everyone. And so yes, the infection has been arrested, but unfortunately what happens is that this good bacteria is our foundation, right? That's really, like we spoke early on, about what role the gut microbiome plays in so many aspects of our health and well-being.
And
So
and our
imagine,
immunity system might even like get damaged, like if we prolong the
exactly.
usage of these antibiotics over the years. Yeah.
Yes. And to give you a perspective, it doesn't even need years. So I'm going to give you some statistic here. So in like really healthy young men who are less than 30, a 4-day antibiotic course of say 500 mg, okay, can actually wipe out their microbiome to such an extent that they will need at least a month to recover if they are going on probiotic supplements, which is like, so these supplements are something that's used in case where it's like SOS, right? It's just SOS, and then you need this help, and not just any probiotic supplements, but they need about 100 billion CFU with a minimum of 20 essential strains of bacteria. They need to go on those probiotics for 1 month for their gut microbiome to come back to simply what it was before the antibiotic course.
Pavithra, around me, I've seen families, parents, definitely unknowingly, giving their children like antibiotics, like it's just like distributing sweets or toffees. Every time the child suffers even a slightest ache or like fever or throat, or anything gets caught up with like any kind of smallest of the smallest issues, they're giving antibiotics, and it's so terrifying. And now like talking to you is making me feel like this is a problematic situation which we need awareness, and we need to spread awareness over it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so for children, it's really important, right? Like right from the way how we are born, whether it's a C-section or a vaginal birth. But now that, say, amazing immune system which we are getting from while we are being born through the vaginal canal, through our mother's milk, and all of this, if a child goes on, say, 12 cycles of antibiotics, okay, and this is, I'm saying yearly, it's yearly. If they're going one for 12 years, then their whole microbiome shifts to something completely different from what it was when we got it.
Means like till the time you get to an age where you're an adult and actually take on life, maybe the chances are that your immunity system is totally messed up, and now your body is not that fit, and then it will start affecting your emotion levels, your other hormones, your mental capacity. Yeah. Oh my god,
Energy
what are we
levels.
doing?
Yes, energy levels, everything, right? And so, which is why antibiotics are, I mean, I've been one of them as well, right? Like, so in my own journey, I went to something called as viral arthritis, which was like, and so that happened because my immune system was at an all-time low. And when that happened, they said, of course, in classic English medicine, there was no cure for it. They said it'll just take a few years. But during that time, I was on antibiotics for more than 20 days, and it messed me up so much, right? And so that was literally a wake up call, and how I sort of got into finding more answers and looking at more things, and it affected everything from the physical to the mental emotional aspect, right? And so and I can completely understand, when you're saying how people around are simply giving this away like toffee. And so I remember that even in my family, when I was growing up, we were doing that, right? It's like, why do we need to take the trouble of going to a doctor or getting a
Why
prescription and
worry?
figuring
Just take
things out,
this.
and we would
Just
just
take.
simply know.
Yeah, and then why worry? It's like the easy solution. You take out a pouch, you give like 2 3 medicines for the certain ailment, and you will be done. Like, just take it for 2 3 days, and that's how ignorant and unaware we can be, unfortunately, obviously, because I'm sure that nobody wants to affect their child's immunity system in a troublesome manner, but then that happens because we're ourselves very unaware. So it's important to talk about it and bring out the talk by and people like you are doing a wonderful job because you're creating awareness, you're working in this field, and health is utmost, and it is so important. It's like the primary foundation of our whole life. So
Yeah.
it's important to go
And
to the
it's
root of it.
super. Yeah, and it's super, super important to be aware of this. And so the only thing I would say is never take an antibiotic unless it's been prescribed by your doctor. And another thing is, after the antibiotic course, always ask your doctor for probiotics.
Okay. Again, like this was my next question. Like, how does probiotics help in maintaining your gut health, and what are the easily available probiotics that we can consume from the kitchen, from the available products that we have at home? Usually, not going the extra mile because usually people don't really make that much effort. So, naturally available probiotics at home and their importance.
Right. So when we are actually talking about probiotics, okay, so because you framed your question in a certain way, I'm going to have to split this into two things, right? So one being supplements, because that's what we primarily called as probiotic supplements. They come with specific strains which are beneficial to us, and if anyone has gone on an antibiotic course, it's really important for them to go on that probiotic course. Then you can do maintenance with things at home, right? Like with live cultured foods, which are naturally rich in certain good bacteria and things like that. But after not just antibiotics, but even during the COVID situation, when people were put on some really strong drugs, even painkillers, all of this actually messes the gut microbiome. Okay, so it's not just, yes, antibiotics sort of are directly aimed at killing the bacteria, but any strong medication actually affects the gut microbiome, which means even our good bacteria.
Pavitra, to
So
cut you, sorry, but I would like to express that there was a friend, it's just a small anecdote, but there was a friend of mine who during COVID was alone living away from India. And because he got COVID, he, had no one to take care of him and no medicines, like so called medicines to help you, the steroids that were given. And he healed himself by just being in sunlight, eating organic food, and he recovered as quickly as like you recover from a basic fever. And people here who were hospitalized, given
yeah,
steroids, took like, I mean, I have seen relatives face like six months long side effects and consequences of those steroids. So I think this in itself explains to us that going the natural way, or not taking so much of chemical steroids and all of these things that mess with your gut, um,
yeah,
is like concerning, and you have to like stick to
yeah.
not going that way. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And sadly, see, because not all of us are blessed with that health and immune system, right? Like your friend was. And because it's already, people have an imbalanced gut because of lifestyle, because of existing conditions, and then they have to end up going on medications. So all I'm saying is it's okay that you had to do that, but it doesn't mean that, we just retire to that. And so there is a way out, there is a way to keep building ourselves, there is a way to fix our gut, and that's how incredible our gut microbiome is. We can actually fix it, we can heal it, we can start repopulating it, and feed it the right things so the good bacteria come back, and then we have optimal health. So yeah, so it's super important to go on a probiotic course, especially when someone has been on some heavy medications or antibiotics and all of that. But one thing with probiotic supplements is that they are effective only as long as we take them.
Oh.
So it's not like, okay, I finished taking it for 1 month, now I don't need to, like, now I'm not going to take it, and I'm also not going to do anything else,
So is it
right?
not like
That's not
curing
really.
the gut? Because does it not work like you're strengthening the gut health, and then once it's strengthened, then you don't really need to like make much of an effort? Does it work like that, or it's like a ongoing process where you have to keep like making it a part of your lifestyle?
Yeah, yeah, because see, the gut health is not just about the food. There's so many more things involved with it, right from our sleep, our stress levels. So not getting good quality sleep, because a lot of people say, I sleep really well, I get like 6 to 8 hours of sleep. But it's not so much about the time that we spend on bed, but it's actually about the quality of sleep. And that actually has a direct repercussion on our gut. So someone could have like a really healthy gut. I mean, I'm just going to take the example of myself. If I have like really late nights and I'm sleeping lesser, I can instantly, the very next day, feel the difference in terms of how my gut is feeling, how I'm even absorbing something, how my energy level is,
Hmm.
and how my clarity of thought focuses. And it's not just simply to do with sleep. We sort of think that, if you haven't slept well, all of this will happen. But all of this is connected. It's connected to the gut. The gut is connected to, the microbiome gets affected if we don't get good quality sleep. So all of this is really connected. So coming back to your question of, okay, we take probiotics, right? After, for example, after having been on heavy medication, we take probiotics, and then we are sort of bringing the gut back to a decent state, okay, or what we call as a balanced state.
Hmm.
Now, after that, we have to. It's something that's a continual process.
Hmm.
Okay, it's something that we need to keep taking care of. Does it need too much of your effort? No, but it's something that becomes a part of our life, because if we are not going to do that, then in the days to come, numerous other conditions show up, right? Like as disorders, diseases, and all of these things. So it's about an investment in our health. We'd rather take that time to start doing this ourselves as a daily self-care routine. This is important self-care routine.
Hmm. So, what are the practices, Pavitra, which, say, a person who doesn't know the G of gut health can really adapt, and where to go to really understand, and because most people don't even know how the gut works. So, where to take the right knowledge from? What are the practices they have to do? How to get into that journey?
Right. So, see, there are a lot of things that can really support our gut health. Okay. One being, of course, the food aspect, right? Which is, say, you were talking about probiotics at home, right? Now, these are active cultured foods. The most common one being curd,
Yeah,
right?
I love it.
Yeah, curd.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a reason why we feel good after eating curd. It's
Okay.
because there's a reason why we feel good, because it plays on your mood. It has a direct
It
impact
feels
on that.
lighter and it feels like there's a
Yeah,
cleansing effect that you feel. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So curd is one of it. But it's again depends on what kind of milk we are using to make the curd. Are we simply buying it from a store? Are we making it from ourselves? And the culture that's being used. A lot of traditions actually use cultures from their grandmother, right? Like which they are still using from then. And a lot of them just like buy a store-bought packet and use it. So as much as we think that curd is an amazing probiotic, it actually has anywhere between 2 to 5 strains of bacteria if it's a really ancient culture. But otherwise, it's primarily like 2 strains of good bacteria.
Oh.
Okay, so it's important to include a whole variety of things. So if it's like, say, making sauerkraut at home, now that is something that all of us can actually do, and you will find a recipe online. It's really easy to find a recipe online, and it doesn't even need a starter culture. So that is just cabbage and salt, and that's about it. And then you can add like some spices and herbs, like say cumin
Hmm.
and things like that,
Like
peppercorn.
pickles and all also come in this category. Do pickles and
Um,
like
right.
vegetable
So
pickles and like basic pickles, yeah, without the
yeah.
masalas and too
So
much of yeah, not making it
yeah,
too oily and unhealthy, but those vinegar based, yeah.
yeah. So the thing is that the oil-based pickles. So oil is actually used to preserve these pickles, right? So in India is where we make pickles with masala and oils. So it is good for us. But then again, it doesn't really have see, firstly, as a pickle, we can eat very little of it. Right, we can't really include even a tablespoon of it. Right, so yeah, so that is definitely one of the forms. And I would say another thing you brought up about vinegar based pickles. So actually vinegar is something which is used as a preservative, and it stops all active bacterial culture, which means if you're eating a vinegar based pickle, the bacteria in it is not really alive and helping you.
Oh, okay. So many myths are there about, like this is healthy, that is not healthy, and there's so much of information available for all of us these days via internet, and so many people advocating these things that it's difficult to filter out what to believe, what not to believe, and what works for you.
Yeah.
So you have to be smart
But
with
these are
that.
things which we can start including, right? Like a bit of all of this. And so apart from food, eating like good fiber rich foods and eating foods with resistant starch. And so that means things like white rice, which we actually vilify. But so there are things like white rice, potatoes, raw banana, yams. So these are all things which are actually
Discouraged
food
mostly.
for
Yeah.
Yeah, but these are foods which, I mean, so it's about the quantity. We shouldn't really overdo anything, right? But these are foods, and these resistant starches is something that our good bacteria feeds on. So which means it helps us multiply those.
Mm.
So yeah, so it's really important to include these.
So don't
And
just cut off
apart,
everything. Yeah, people usually like cut off eating certain foods, and so they shouldn't be like a big no to anything. Like you should, I think you should eat everything, but in a balanced manner. Um,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. The only nose is, be wary of things which actually say no sugar,
yeah,
very healthy.
yeah,
Um, yeah, when they say no sugar on the label, the artificial sweeteners are in it are actually more harmful to us.
mm,
So yeah, so as much as I see a lot of products in the name of now healthy food, come up with a whole lot of things, no trans fat, no this, no that, but I would say please read the labels.
yeah.
Okay.
That's the
And
race, no?
so
Like people feel brown bread is the healthiest, but I don't think brown bread is the healthiest. Like you have to still like be wise with these choices that you're making, because it's again another like business gimmick, and people are just reining in money out of like people going healthy and going crazy for healthy food. But packaged
yeah,
food anyway is not healthy. Like I see these
yeah,
chips, strays of chips in like supermarkets, and those feel not healthy at all. And then I feel like
yeah,
they're selling packets of chips, naming them trans free and like gluten free and I
yeah,
don't know whatnot. But
yeah,
that's not
yeah,
the way to
exactly.
go the healthy way. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because we could be eating gluten free, sugar free, but it could actually be harmful to the gut. So yeah, and when I say gut, I'm of course including everything else about us, right? And yeah, and like I mentioned about sleep. Sleep is a really, really important part for our gut microbiome. And movement, exercise
Mm.
is actually something that is really important
Mm.
for our gut microbiome. See,
Mm.
now if you see, these seem like very
Basic,
regular
yeah,
stuff, right?
yeah.
Huh. But and so it's not like, oh, okay, this is only helping your gut, because like I said, it's this holistic perspective, right? And the gut is connected with so many things, so it helps everything else and it helps your gut.
No, Pavitra, like
So
I think it totally makes sense. Like these days, like see, uh, like someone went to a psychologist, and the psychologist or the psychiatrist told them that your gut is basically the result or the causation where your mental health is getting ruined. And that was very like thought provoking, because how can like mental health get affected by your gut? And then when you go to like a gynac, they'll tell you that, oh my god, I think your eating habits are not right, which is in a way like related to your gut. And then your work performance is getting ruined, and then your stress levels are increasing,
yeah,
and then you're
yeah,
suffering from insomnia. So it's like
yeah,
everything else, everything
everything.
is related to our lifestyle.
Yes,
So these basic
yes,
things have to be adapted in order to
yes,
like not ridiculed and laughed over that na 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 ye to like not those kind of,
yeah,
that kind of attitude
yeah,
will not really help people. Like we have to come out
yeah,
of this unhealthy lifestyle pattern and move towards the
yeah.
basic
Oh,
health.
and also finding that balance, because now there are more people jumping onto the healthy bandwagon, but is that really something that's helping you? Is something we need to question.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's a very, very important aspect of it. And of course, with regard to managing our stress,
Hmm.
breath work is something that's really, really helpful even for our gut microbiome, right?
That is
So yeah, so breath work is something, there are multiple ways of doing this, whether it's going to be pranayama or like very simple sort of, whether it's box breathing or the 4-7-8 breathing. There are multiples of these which are, which one can find online, and incorporating this every day, even if it's going to be for 5 minutes in a day, is super important. All I would say is never underestimate the power of what you can do for yourself in those 5 minutes.
that is so good. Like, I think I'd like to end on this note, although, like, hearing you feels like we need hours and hours of information for you to, really like lead a better lifestyle. But anyway, we'll catch you again. But thank you, Pavitra, for sharing so much of, knowledge. Like, I'm sure the people watching would love, and, it would definitely help them with their better lifestyle choices and making a healthy lifestyle pattern for themselves. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm really happy that you are doing something like this, showcasing and bringing in different women who are especially, working alongside various areas and offering this platform. And so thank you so much for that. And I'm really happy to have been a part of this and to offer my few bits of
Oh,
information and help.
amazing bits. And I hope people get in touch with you on gut culture and really like get on a great probiotics and healthy gut lifestyle.
Sure. Yes.
Thank you,
Thank you so
Pavitra.
much.
Thank you for joining
Thanks a
us.
lot.